This is the Math 2 lesson summary video for the lesson entitled, Can You Get There From Here? In Lesson 2, Can You Get There From Here? The purpose of the task and the lesson at hand is to transform figures in order to demonstrate that they are congruent to one another. So we start talking about this idea of congruence and what it means. And in the lesson itself, we are given two quadrilaterals, quadrilateral ABCD and quadrilateral QRST, and we are told that they are congruent. So we discussed the fact that we know they are congruent because of the arc marks and because of the tick marks. So what we wrote down in class today was all of the angles and side lengths that we can say are congruent based on the fact that we know that these two quadrilaterals are congruent. So we said that angle A is congruent to angle Q because angle A has one arc mark and angle Q has one arc mark. We also said that angle B would be congruent to angle R. Angle C would be congruent to angle S, and angle D would be congruent to angle T. So those were all the angles that we said would be congruent. And then we said that line segment AB would be congruent to line segment QR because each of those line segments only have one tick mark. We also said that line segment BC would be congruent to line segment RS. Line segment AD would be congruent to, and I'm going to erase these because that's kind of confusing. Line segment AD would be congruent to line segment QT. And I think we're missing one. Line segment CD would be congruent to line segment ST. So we determined that we can write all these congruent statements because of the fact that our quadrilaterals were marked. Okay, then we were asked to describe a sequence and type of transformations that we can use so that we can show that the quadrilateral ABCD is congruent to quadrilateral QRST. So in class, we did use some tracing paper, patty paper. And the first thing students noticed is that if you take quadrilateral ABCD and you translate it, write 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then we translate it up 2 units, sorry about that, we would see that A would map to point Q, and point Q is underneath there, but the A would map to point Q. So the first thing we said in this case was that we can translate quadrilateral ABCD, write 10 units, and up 2 units. Our main goal here is to get quadrilateral ABCD to lie directly on top of quadrilateral QRST. Okay. So after we translated, it was discovered in class that if we rotate our new, I'm going to put little tick marks, so B prime, C prime, and D prime, actually going to make those look a little bigger. If we rotated our prime image, we call it a prime image, so the notation from unit 1 is coming here into unit 2. If we rotate that image and we didn't have a specific degree, we should be able to match up on top of each other angle B with angle R. So since we don't have tracing paper in front of us, we did have it in class, but we also used a compass and we put our center at point Q, and we opened it so that, let me just rotate this, so that our QR would be a radius of our circle. So let me put my point on Q, and we made sure that R would be a radius. And then what we did is we drew a circle. And what you will notice when you draw your circle is you will notice that my pre-image point, B prime, was on the same circle, on the same arc as my end point. And that will happen when we are rotating any point in the coordinate plane, if you remember that from Unit 1. Okay, so the next thing we did in class was, and I'm just going to move to the screen, so the green quadrilateral was my translation, right, 10 and up 2, and my blue quadrilateral here is my rotation of my green quadrilateral. So we did this in two ways. We rotated the green quadrilateral using our compass as well as tracing paper in class. So how we rotated that blue figure, we're going to add to our list, is by placing our compass on point Q and constructing a circle with congruent radii line segment QB and line segment QR. Okay, we then constructed a few more rotations by rotating points. I'll just erase this. We then rotated points C prime and D prime by constructing several more circles. Okay, and the last thing that we did here is we took our blue quadrilateral and we reflected it over that line segment QS. So we're going to add that last step to our list. We reflected quadrilateral. I'm going to call it A double prime, B double prime, C double prime, D double prime over the line segment QR to create our final image. So we actually had 3 transformations happening, and what we noticed then when we got our final image to overlap on our original is that we saw that they overlap perfectly, which means that they are definitely congruent. If you have any more questions or need any more help with this lesson, please see your Wake County Canvas site.